What's up, dudes and dudes to the urine? My name's Scythe, and we are back here for some more Trove on PC, baby. I know it's been a while since we had a PC episode. Heck, it's been a while since we had any episode whatsoever. I've been super duper busy with all sorts of crazy stuff that's going on, and I'm going to be talking about that in today's video. But more importantly of all, this week, or at least the week that I'm recording this, hopefully I don't get this video out way too late to all of you, is going to end up having the Dino Tamer in the weekly contest. Now, while Boomeranger and Neon Ninja are also in the weekly contest, my set of gems is it's the magic set of gems. Yeah, so I pretty much have just been swapping all my gems over so that I can end up getting the Dark Chaos Balls. If I ever end up getting the Shadow Pins, which I have been fortunate enough to be able to get quite a few of them, then that's absolutely awesome because I've been throwing a lot of them in the club and everything like that. But more so than not, I'm just farming for the Dark Chaos Balls so that I can get the Dark Pegasus. I may continue to swap over my characters and stuff like that because I most of all find it very interesting to test out these characters and see how they actually fare at the end of the game compared to some of the others. And today we're going to be talking about one of the most controversial classes in the entire game because for some weird reason, lots of players love, and I mean they love, to hate on the Dino Tamer and say that he's bad and say that, oh, you know, this recent update that ended up coming out ended up making him poop. And it's like, nothing changed with the Dino Tamer. Like, seriously, he still is one of the top 3 classes in the game. Especially as far as magic damage is concerned. You want to know how it goes as far as ranged? Fade Trickster, Gunslinger, Dino Tamer. And honestly speaking, I would say that the Dino Tamer is right up there with the Gunslinger just because of the fact that we've got a little bit more crowd control. And we can trigger our ult a little bit more often. This is not our ult, this is just a random mount. And just generally speaking, he's a very easy character to pick up. And fortunately, because of the dev's terrible calculations, we already can say right off the hop that throwing down your dino babies is absolutely useless. They suck. They do actually scale off of your max health, which means that they do have a little bit more survivability, which is nice. But as you can see right here, he's doing what? What is that? Like is that 6 mil? That's actually not too bad, but considering his low attack speed, you know, I'm actually quite surprised that he's able to, you know, he was able to kill that little mini boss right there, honestly speaking. But then he ended up despawning, unfortunately. I think it would be great if the Dino allies didn't end up despawning like the Tomb Raiser. That would be awesome. But again, the big reason why those Dino babies are going to be useless for the most part is just because it's going to end up taking away from your overall damage. So right here, you see we're doing 2 mil a shot with just our normal shot. We don't really have that much crowd control or AoE. If we throw down our net, that's going to end up doing close to 4 mil right there. I'll show you all my stats in a minute here, because most of all, I'm just trying to show you the basics of the abilities of the character and what you're going to be doing as far as like killing absolutely everything in the game is concerned. Because Dino Tamer, you know, lots of people throw him under the bus. I think most of all because they don't really understand him. And I always get the question of people asking, is the Dino Tamer actually worthwhile? Can you main him at the end game? And the answer is yes, he's very, very powerful. No, Merc, don't ruin it. Okay, so if we trigger our ult, throw our net down, that's going to end up doing, was that 28 mil? I don't know if that was Merc or me. Let's throw down our net right there and see if I can actually, okay, what was that? 11 mil? Yeah, I think that was 11 mil. Maybe it was because I had a pot going on, you know, with that first enemy right there. Let's actually see if we can trigger a pot right here while we ended up, yeah, 28 mil. Wow, that's actually not too bad as far as the damage is concerned, especially because that net is just going to be going dun, 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 dun. Like it's got very, very, very solid damage per second, right? That's the whole thing about the Dino Tamer that makes him like really, really good, is because that net combined with just your normal attack is going to be where it's at. Like, seriously, it's absolutely awesome. What is this random enemy down here? Let's go find out who it is, Mark. Is this going to actually be tied to that worm dungeon? Yeah, I thought that it would be. So, as you can see right here, you know, even more so than the Neon Ninja, we actually kill things very, very fast because the Neon Ninja, while still the fastest farmer, it's not that he's the fastest farmer because of his ability and his shuriken being like really, really overpowered, which it is, because the cast time that you actually have on that is you have to do a 1, 2, 3 attack over and over. What makes the Neon Ninja the fastest farmer in the game is his crazy movement speed, because otherwise we're gonna be actually doing some pretty crazy damage. And because, you know, the Neon Ninja is pretty useless in Shadow Towers, Dino Tamer is actually a really, really good character for Shadow Towers. You can actually solo solo with the Dino Tamer. Same with any of the ranged characters, but most of all, the Dino Tamer is actually really good because his net will snare most enemies and kind of slow them down and stuff like that. As far as a subclass ability, I would recommend just using the Knight when you're farming and stuff, and you can actually use the Knight one while you're in Shadow Towers as well, because that extra flash capacity does make a big difference. But then also there's going to be the Lunar Lancer ability, which you're not going to get the advantage of that physical damage, but most of all, you are going to be able to transform into lunacy mode, which is going to give you more damage and more attack speed. So here's my stats. We've got a base of 96,000 magic damage, which isn't too bad. The only gem that actually sucks on my Dino Tamer is my class gem ability. Then we've got 98% crit hit and 1,433.1 for the crit damage. Here's going to be my gems, which are going to be the exact same as the ones that I ended up showing you previously on my Gunslinger, except here's going to be our class gem ability, which, as you can see, I have max health on it. Honestly speaking, as far as re-rolling class gem abilities are concerned, I don't really worry about it too much, just because of the fact that I don't really want to waste gem re-rollers, especially when he's dead. Especially when I still need to re-roll some of my main gems that I put on my Gunslinger, because my Gunslinger right now is still actually my main. Like, that's the character that I like using the absolute most, right? Now, again, the whole thing that you gotta consider is that I'm not actually popping a flash while I'm fighting most of these enemies, because otherwise they would die pretty much instantaneously. Let's see if we can end up getting here and killing this dude before, you know, oh no, we got the stupid kill waves of enemies. Well, let's see, can we end up defeating all of them before our ult ends up going away? We're gonna actually be doing good, because the ult ended up doing that weird thing that it does sometimes where it just lasts an absurd amount of time. And then what you're gonna be wanting to use on the Dino Tamer is, of course, Death Defying is just pretty much what I always use. Arcane Emblem, and then Chronomatic Emblem is going to be very detrimental to the character, excuse me, as well as the Chronomatic Cubesley, or Chronomancer Cubesley, so long as you can, of course, sacrifice the Sure Strike, because what all of that is going to end up doing is making it so that you can trigger your ult, which is single-handedly like where this character's damage ends up coming from. His Dino Babies, though not complete trash like they used to be, they're still useless. Like, you're not really going to be using your Dino Babies for anything. They do actually have a little bit more health to them, but as far as Shadow Towers, like in U9, you don't need it because you out damage them anyways. We kill things way faster without even bothering to use the cast time of throwing down our meat on the ground. But then for Shadow Towers, especially Ultra Towers, it's just useless. Like, you're not going to be able, like, the Dino Babies just die in like one hit. They're gross, dude. Like, seriously. Now, what does actually keep the Dino Tamer from being one of the faster farmers in the game is just the fact that his ultimate is not actually determined by the Knight ability, the subclass ability, which gives us the increased running speed, which kind of sucks. But then on top of that, while you actually have your ult triggered, you're not going to be able to glide. Now, one thing that we have actually seen, people have data mined it, you know, a couple months back already, and hopefully it doesn't take them until next year before they end up adding it to the game, is that we have seen an animation where the Dino Tamer is kind of, you know, like the character itself is kind of gliding in the air while picking up and carrying his ultimate ability, which, as soon as we all saw that, we got really hyped, because it means that the Dino Tamer would actually be viable for fast farming at the end game. He's good for, you know, just killing things, but he's not really viable for fast farming just because you don't get the movement speed from your wings, and especially because his ult does not actually get governed by that movement speed. Now, how cool is that going to be whenever they finally decide to add it? Where right now, we're already done with that dungeon. We need that extra movement speed right now. Let's just start gliding to the next dungeon. Not to mention, it's gonna probably look very, very adorable as well. So let's actually, while we still have time, hop on over to the Shadow Tower, just so I can kind of show you how Ultra is going to end up doing. Somebody ended up actually tweeting at me. They made a YouTube video themselves going through Ultra Daughter of the Moon from front to back, all of the arenas and all the dungeons and everything like that, and the boss itself with the Dino Tamer all on their own, which is impressive to say the least, but the video, of course, was well over half an hour long, which is why I've never bothered to actually do it, because I just really don't have the patience to actually try and solo it, which I'm going to give you a quick tip right here, right now, folks, just to let you know. This is how you're going to end up soloing Shadow Towers. Is not only do you have to get very, very lucky with the enemy ability generation, because if you have, like, the Gravitron right there keeping you from jumping in the air, which means that you're not going to be able to survive to save your life, But then also, like, say you have that, and then maybe the enemies throw down gas on the ground, or like acid and stuff like that. Just any of the things that end up just instantly wrecking your face, right? Then you're not going to be able to survive. However, if you end up getting enemies that generate with not really that many crazy abilities, you know, say you stay away from thorns and stuff like that, and it's just like, oh, the enemy has more health or something. This is pretty much how you solo this entire game, is you just gotta have enough jump that you can stay up in the air to survive long enough. Of course, the Dino Babies are going to be okay for this section, just because they're going to end up giving us a little bit of a hand as far as survivability. You know, they're gonna kind of end up stunning the enemies and stuff. And again, it's just about having a ranged character and having enough jump that you can stay in the air. And this is just how Trove works in general. I discovered this a very, very long time ago. It just never really ended up bothering trying to use it for like an ultra tower or anything, most of all just because of how time consuming it is. But you can see with the Dino Tamer, you have insane amounts of survivability just because of the fact that your net is going to snare the enemies. And there's no AI in this game at all. They're just going to run in a beeline straight towards you. Beeline, get it? Because we're fighting bees. So all we gotta do, especially against ranged enemies, is you just try to keep them snared and keep them as far away from you as possible so that they're not actually just shooting at you, because they're the only enemies that are actually going to be able to cause damage. And technically speaking, folks, as you can see right here, as we ended up getting through this wave right here, and this is Ultra Daughter of the Moon dungeon. This is a dungeon right here, because the arenas, you know, while the enemies themselves actually generate weaker, that doesn't necessarily mean that arenas are going to be easier. They're actually a lot harder as far as surviving is concerned, just because of the fact that you're going to have to fight a lot more enemies and have a lot more chances of death than actually going through an arena or a dungeon, I mean, right? Because the differences between a dungeon is something like this, where the enemies generate stronger and you're going to have to fight a couple different waves, whereas the arena is just going to be the one where you fight like 8 waves of enemies over and over and over again. But the whole point is that I just wanted to show you all this right here, that it is entirely possible. We can solo Ultra Daughter of the Moon all the way to the end. It just, like, look how long this takes, dude. Look how long this takes. And that's what that other guy did in his video. You know, it still is a good watch, but for the most part, I played this game enough to know how to actually get through Ultra Dot. As soon as I saw him just doing this, I just thought, oh, okay, I already know what this is. Skip to the end, and yup, he was just fighting Daughter, and just, I don't know if he ended up dying a couple times, because that's the whole thing, is you are probably going to die many, many times as you try to attempt going through Ultra Towers, which Dino Tamer, again, is probably, as far as ranged characters and even as far as just natural survivability, he's probably got the most survivability in the entire game right now, honestly speaking. You know, Ice Sage you can use as a tank on Titan bosses exclusively. Inside arenas and dungeons, you just end up getting absolutely destroyed. Dino Tamer has that amount of survivability, not only just because of the amount of damage that he's actually doing to a group of enemies, but also just because of the fact that your net is going to be snaring them. Because the Fade Trickster, you don't have the movement speed to be able to dodge all the craziness that's going on. However, you do have your clones, so it's difficult, but most likely possible. I don't know, because I don't main the Fade. But that's the other thing too, is that the Dino Tamer has over even the Gunslinger, is the fact that when you use your ult, you have that movement speed. It might not be that good when you're out farming in Uber worlds and stuff like that, but when you're in Shadow Towers, that movement speed is very, very nice. Because when you're using the Gunslinger, what you're mostly compensating for with the lack of movement speed when you're using your ult is just the fact that you're doing tons and tons of damage to a huge group of enemies. Now, again, I wanted this to be the definitive video that lets you all know that you can main the Dino Tamer, and honestly, I would recommend it, especially because melee characters, as far as Shadow Towers are concerned, are pretty useless right now. That said, after the recent patch, the recent hotfix that ended up coming out, melee characters can have their time in the sun again for Shadow Towers, but for the most part, you're still not going to want to main a melee character for Shadow Towers. You know, you're going to have a little bit of extra damage, but again, it's all just about having that range, because that is where you're going to end up getting your survivability. In any case, thank you so much for watching, everybody. That pretty much is the comment for today as well. Let me just respawn, because everybody's been asking me, like, is the Dino Tamer a worthwhile character? So just to show you, right over here, we've got Comments Cove just behind the Lunar Dojo, and this is going to end up being where I put all sorts of comments that I end up getting, mostly just general comments, just kind of like, okay, 10 or 20 people ended up asking me this exact same question, so I'm going to end up putting the comment down over in there, and then you can see the episode marker number for it, and the appropriate comment and stuff. So if you ever end up having having a question, you got some extra time to go through here, you can actually see more specifically, oh, he already answered that question in this episode. But I don't expect you to do that anyways. That's why I keep repeating these videos where I kind of just have a video come out every now and then telling you, yes, the Dino Tamer's good. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, favorite, and subscribe for more daily content. That's also going to build up loyalty points for my merch store. Links are in the description for that. You're going to be able to buy this shirt as well as a bunch of others. And either way, it still helps me out, and regardless, and I still very much appreciate you watching. Sign on and stay epic, everybody.